Lamar Smith's our ranking member, and we would invite him for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Attorney General, you recently said that the administration would not bring terrorists into our country and release them. Do you consider individuals who were trained at terrorist training camps to be terrorists?
Well, I think you have to look at, you have to make individualized determinations about a particular person. That's what we're doing with regard to the 241 who are at Guantanamo now.
Right. If someone were trained at a terrorist training camp by a terrorist, say in the use of weapons against civilians, would they be a terrorist?
It gets closer to the definition of a person I would agree would be a terrorist. But again, you have to look at the totality of who the person is, what kind of training the person received, whether in making these determinations where that person was intent on using that terrorist training, what country perhaps.
If the Treasury Department in the United Nations designated an organization to be a terrorist organization, would you consider members of that organization to be terrorists?
Again, it would depend on the connection that that person had to the organization. If that person was a leader, obviously.
So someone could be trained as a terrorist, trained in all the capabilities of a terrorist, and yet the administration might not consider them to be a terrorist?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I would want to look at specifics. I mean, you're throwing hypotheticals at me, and I'm not sure I can respond to that as well as if I had in front of me a file, like putting together on the Guantanamo detainees. And I could look at a file of somebody and tell you whether or not that person was, in fact, a terrorist.
But their membership in a terrorist organization, therefore, is not enough to satisfy the administration that they're terrorists.
Well, I certainly think that would be an indication, a marker, that that person is likely to be considered a terrorist.
But that alone would not be enough if they were just members of a terrorist organization?
Well, one of the great justices of the Supreme Court was a member of the Ku Klux Klan at one point. And so mere organization doesn't always necessarily take you to a conclusion. I think we have to be thoughtful, we have to be careful, we have to be complete in the examinations that we do to make sure that we are going to label somebody as a terrorist and then treat them accordingly.
Right.